Hey everyone, welcome to another repair video. Today I'm looking at this Xbox One X which I've got in front of me. As you can see, it's already been taken apart, and the reason for that is because I was quietly working away in the workshop. I wasn't going to make a video on this one because it was a standard no video output and I've done tons of them. They get a little bit repetitive after a little while, so sometimes I'll just skip over making the video and just work away quietly in the workshop. But basically, I replaced the retimer on this one and the console was still not outputting video. So basically, I tested C50, which is a little capacitor just below the HDMI retimer. And basically, that was showing up as around about 200 ohms, which is indicative of a bad HDMI retimer or redriver, whatever the hell you want to call it. But I replaced that and it was giving me a correct reading. So I thought, yep, that's all good. We're all good. We can carry on. We can put it back together, get it fixed, get it sent back. No. So this, like I said, it had no display. And like I said, usually it is the HDMI retimer, especially when we're getting a reading of 200 ohms. What we should be expecting is 2 to 10k on C50, the capacitor just below. And I was getting 200 ohms, so I thought, yeah, that's fine. I can replace the HDMI encoder. And we're all good. We can carry on and get this thing back together. So I did that, put it all back together, turned it on, and we still have no display. So I'm going to show you first of all what's happening with it, just so you can verify the issue. So I've got my HDMI cable. So I've got my power lead in there, and I've got a HDMI cable. This HDMI cable is now working. So I'll plug that in there and turn it on, and it does turn on absolutely fine. I'll leave the fan unplugged, it's not a big deal, but it does turn on absolutely fine. I'll just show you that there, it is turning on. And if we switch over to the TV, and as you can see there, HDMI input 2, and the display isn't showing up. So I thought, well, could it be the hard drive? Even though I tested the hard drive anyway and it was working fine, or rather it was reading fine. So I tried another hard drive, still no display. And then I thought, well, that only really leaves one thing. So let me take this apart fully and I'll show you exactly what that leaves. So if you are new to the channel, by the way, I would really appreciate it if you do hit subscribe and turn on bell notifications. That way it makes me look a little bit more popular, but at the same time, you don't miss any future videos. So I really appreciate that. And I also stream on Twitch, so if you want to check me out over there, you can do so. And if you're feeling really generous or you feel like I don't eat enough because I'm really skinny, you can go ahead and use your Twitch Prime subscription by heading over to Twitch, going onto my channel. The link is in the description to that. And then you can click on the subscribe button and it'll give you an option to link your Amazon account, and then you can use a free Twitch Prime subscription. It gives me around about $2.50 every month, and well, every time you renew it at least, and it really helps out, so I do appreciate it when people do that. So let's get into this. Let's show you what I've found on this and the reason that I'm making this video. So I'm just going to remove the power supply, and I'm going to get this thing fully disassembled again. So like I said, this was supposed to be a straightforward repair, and unfortunately it's not. It's going to be a little bit more tricky than that. Oops. Sorry about that, I left my microscope there. So, like I said, this is supposed to be a straightforward repair. But unfortunately, it's going to be a little bit more difficult than that, and there's some even worse news for this particular job. So, one of the components on the HDMI circuit is an Esd Boost Ic, or rather an Esd protection and boost IC. And basically, what that does is, number one, it boosts the signal to allow for 4K output. Number two, it protects against electrostatic discharge. So for example, if you get a lightning strike and it comes down your TV, and your TV is plugged into the Xbox, this chip here will generally blow. And the reason for that is because it's designed to blow to prevent it from damaging the console any further. So it's got basically like a surge protection built in. Now, the really bad news is you can't buy them. You cannot buy these chips. I've got some of those chips for the Xbox One S, and we can buy them for the Xbox One S, but no one knows where to get them from for the Xbox One X. So if you look here, I've got Esd Boost Ic just there, and basically These are tiny little BGA chips. And I mean very tiny. You can just see it on the edge of my tweezers there. So these are tiny little BGA chips. I think there's 12 pads or something like that in them. And basically, like I said, this is the same as the one on the One X, except it's a different chip. And it's not designed for native 4K. Not only that, but it's a different shape. So the only way to get them is to basically take one off a donor board. I think I've got some in this tiny little compartment just here. I think I might have one just there. So I've got one just there. So what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to use this donor chip. I don't even know if that chip is any good. And that is another problem on its own, because I could sit there and waste my time putting that chip on and it might not work. So it's really annoying. But I've got one there, and I'll show you how I know that the chip is bad by switching to the microscope and doing a couple of tests with the multimeter. Alright, so here is my very, very beautiful looking TDP158. So like I said, I've already replaced this, and that is a brand new chip, so it's not that what's causing it. So I went over here and I started looking around here, and you can see here we've got U21. Now you might think, oh well, there's some markings on there, surely we can identify that chip, right? Well, this is the donor chip I've just taken out of that box. And it's got different markings. Yeah, exactly. It's got different markings. The markings that are on the chip are not an identifier for the chip. It's really, really annoying, because it means that we don't know what the chip is, we don't know where to get it from. All we know is that it's made by ST Microelectronics. So if I go with one probe on ground, so I can use this as a ground here. So this here, if I touch any other ground point on the board, you see we've got continuity. The reason for that is because that is a ground. So we've got a ground there as well. So I'll actually use that as a ground so it's visible. And if we start hunting around here, no short, no short, no short. And then what do you know? We've got a short on C14. So C14 is, I believe, I think it's either the 5 volt or the HDMI hot plug detect. It's one of the two. I don't know exactly what it is, but I think it's either 5 volt or hot plug detect. But we've got a short on there. So if we just test them probes there, you can see we've got a short, and that's a capacitor, which means that it shouldn't have continuity. You can see that there's a big ground plane on the side of it, and it shouldn't have continuity. So that means that we are kind of in a bit of a pickle, because we can't buy these chips. The only way to buy them is to get them off a donor board, unfortunately. And I know some people might be thinking, well, it's a BGA chip, can't you just reflow it? And unfortunately not, because the issue isn't with the solder balls, it's with the chip itself. So the issue is internal on the chip. Random solder ball there. And that come off my desk. So I will say as well, before I actually remove this, that once you remove this chip, there is no going back. It is a BGA chip, it's not like you can just drop it back down. Okay, so there you go, you can see I've removed that chip there. And as you can see, there are solder balls underneath. Okay, here's an example. People think that you have to have super steady hands for this. My hands are not super steady. If I can do it with shaky hands, then I'm sure that you can. So I'm going to move that to one side, because if it don't work, I'm going to be taking my own chip back off, because like I said, these are not exactly the kind of chip that I can just buy 20 of them. So I've got a donor chip here, so what I'm going to need to do For a start, I need to freshen up these joints on the solder pads. Because as you can see, they're not exactly flat. So I'm going to try and freshen these up by running the soldering iron across the pads. Now these are very, very fragile chips. They are made of glass, or some sort of glass or ceramic or something, but they're not a typical BGA chip. They're not exactly strong. So one press in the wrong direction and you could end up with a cracked chip. If you end up with a cracked chip, obviously you've got to find another one, and then you're back to square one where you can't actually buy these things. It's a pain in the backside, but I thought I'd make a video just to cover the process of doing this repair properly without bypassing the chip. I do have a video on the channel where I bypassed the chip because I didn't have any. Well, basically what I want to do is I just want to clean up this chip so as the pads are roughly flat. They don't have to be completely flat, but I want them to be as close as possible. Alright, I think that's probably going to be as good as I can get. So like I said, they don't have to be perfect. They are very small pads though, and it's kind of difficult to actually get good joints on them without using solder balls, and unfortunately we don't have a stencil for them. So I'm going to replace the solder that's on here as well, try and get some nice even pads. And before I actually go ahead and put that chip on, I'm going to test again on that C14 and just make sure that the short is gone. Oh, dearie me, it's not gone. That's going to suck. So we have a short to ground on the 5-volt rail in that area. So now we need to try and figure out why the hell we have a 5-volt short. So that don't make a lot of sense, does it? Unless I've got a bad chip, because it is a brand new chip. So let's remove this Hdmi encoder again. So the reason that I went for the Esd IC is because it is showing a short on that rail. And on top of that, this chip is brand new. So I'll remove the Hdmi encoder. Then let's test that again. Let's see what goes on now. It's not the encoder. We still have a short on the 5-volt rail. That is very, very odd. So what else could be causing a short on the 5-volt rail then? Now we've got some components on the back here, and I've come across this once before on the Xbox Series X, but only ever once. So let's just see if we can find any kind of short around here. No. Okay, so this to me looks like it's going to be the 5-volt rail. That was me that scratched that just off camera. But it appears as though the 5-volt comes through here. and then goes back through. And it does go to that Esd Ic. So I can remove this capacitor from C14 and just see if that's causing it. I'll just push that to one side. See if it's gone now. Nope. So I think the next thing to do is probably going to be to inject some voltage and see if we can find it. So we've definitely got a short on that 5-volt rail, which is really, really strange. I don't think I've ever come across that. So unless there's a short internally on the HDMI port between pin 17 and 18, then yeah, it's not going to make much sense. The only way I can really confirm that is if I either remove the port or if I break the 5-volt line from the HDMI port. Let's have a look inside the port. The port looks okay. Although there is something in there. Looks like just fluff though. Interesting, what is that? Now that's going to be difficult for you guys to see. I just pulled this from the bottom of the port. It's super tiny. There's a little tiny shard of something metal. The port looks solid. The only thing I found was a tiny little piece of metal. Alright, let's look again. Let's just test again. No. Okay, I think it's injection time. It's time to try and find this with voltage. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 1 volt through the bench power supply, and I'm going to try and figure out where the short is based on what gets warm. So I'm going to put 1 volt into this rail, and we're drawing 0.6 amps, so 670 milliamps we're drawing. That should be enough to figure out what gets warm. Okay, I just went to 1.6 volts. And I think it's just burnt whatever short out what it might have had at 1.6 volts. Let's have a look. So I couldn't detect any heat with my fingers in that area. So I went to started climbing, and it's just gone from 1 amp of current to nothing. So I think it might have burnt it out. Well, I'll be damned. Well, I'll be damned. I think I've just burnt out the short. Whatever the hell it was, I think I've just burnt it out. Wow. I wish I had the bench power supply on the screen. Oh, wow. That's nuts. Okay, so I'm in voltage mode here. So if I probe there, sorry, not voltage mode, I mean continuity mode. So there to there, you get a beep, obviously. There to there, which is ground. No beep. It's just burnt the short out. But did that damage the board? Wherever that was, it just appears to have burnt it out. Whatever it was. So let me grab the original Esd Ic back. So this one is the one that I haven't. Hang on, is that the right one? Let me have a look and compare the two. Okay, that's the original one. So that one's my be all and end all emergency one. The only one I've got. So let's just fix this one up and I'll get it back on. And then I've got to get the HDMI encoder back on as well. So I reckon we would have had to take this chip off to be able to do that voltage injection anyway. And because I know it's not shorted to things like the 1.8 volt rail or the 1.1 APU rail, then I know that I can safely go all the way to 5 volts because I know for a fact it's not shorted to a lower voltage rail because the console does turn on. I'm just not happy with how it's sitting, so I'm going to take the chip off and freshen the pads up, I think. So the good thing about the way that I did that with removing the Esd Ic and the HDMI encoder is there's nothing really there for it to damage apart from maybe a transistor. So injecting the voltage, there's no way you can go through data lines because the data lines are broken because the chip wasn't there. There's no way you can go to a power rail because there was no short on that power rail. It was just shorted to ground. That specific 5 volt rail was shorted to ground, so very unlikely to have caused any kind of issues. So what I'm going to do, because I can't seem to get surface tension to work, it's going to mean that there's not enough solder on the pads to begin with. I'm just going to touch those pads up. And also add some to the middle pad. And then now when I drop the chip down, it should get pulled in automatically by surface tension. There you go, just like that look, you see? So let's clean that up and then give it another inspection. It should be good now. Right, time for the moment of truth. Number one, has that short come back? That's going to be the first question. Short is gone. Alright. Let me just get rid of my backup ESD chip. It's stuck to the bloody board. There you go. I'm going to drop that back inside my box of bits, I think. Alright, so I'm going to get this back together and let's just hope that we now get the required display that we so long for, shall we? So it's time now for the moment of truth. It turns on, so we haven't done any damage to the board, which I expected anyway. Kind of knew that it wasn't shorted to the 3.3 or 1.8 volt rail, or the 1.1 for that matter. Do we get a display? That's the question. Ooh, we don't. Interesting. Alright, so we're on the right input. I'm going to check under the scope and just see if I'm getting 5 volts out. And 5 volts on pin 18 as well. Oh, hang on. Oh, 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 it's just come on. Hey, there we go. That was weird. Was it? That was a little bit of a weird one. Delayed display, but we get a display. Hell yeah. Man, that was strange. I think I'm going to have to do some further tests on this, but yeah, how weird is that? Oh, so what happens now then? Did we get 4K? You're not connected to the internet. I don't want to connect to the internet. Get stuffed. Stupid ass thing. Okay, someone's done a factory reset. Not a factory reset, a settings reset. So let me just see what kind of display options we're going to get. TV and display. Let me just check the video fidelity and overscan. Make sure nothing's been set. Oh, damn it. Got stick drift on this controller. Okay, it's on auto. Might need to clean the HDMI port. Let's just see if we get hot plug detect first and foremost. So unplug it and plug it back in. We do. But we still only get 640 by 480. So I'm going to clean the port. The way I clean these ports is to just take my HDMI cable and just dunk it in a load of isopropyl alcohol, because IPA is non-conductive and it's an excellent cleaner. So there might be flux or something in the port. So what happens now? Okay, still 640, so let's reboot. So we're still in low res mode. So I'm going to reboot it. No. It's not picking up 4K. So could I have an issue with the ESD anyway? Could it have damaged the ESD? That is possible. Could it be the retimer that I've damaged the retimer, taking it on and off? Again, possible, but I don't know. I honestly don't know. It's going to be difficult to say, really. Okay. I'll worry about cleaning it up afterwards. I'm not really that fussed about cleaning it up right now. I am going to need to change the thermal paste again, because I've taken the heatsink off too many times since I applied fresh paste. I just want to see if it displays in normal resolutions before I do anything more. Because if I've got to take it off again, then it's pointless replacing the paste again. Nah. Oh, that sucks. Alright, well I can try changing that Esd IC just before I call it quits. It could have damaged the Esd IC since the Esd did have a short on the 5V line. So I think it's probably best to just replace this anyway, just so we know for sure that we've done everything we can. Okay, so let's just re-tin these joints. Alright, I think I'm going to have to wick this away and clean it up. Alright, that's the annoying thing about these brushes, is the bristles come off them fairly quickly. It's no wonder they're very cheap. They're not very well made. I don't seem to be able to tin that one pad. Very strange. Can't tin that one pad. I think I got it. So there's the chip. Stuck to my tweezers as usual. Okay. Surface tension did bring that back into place, which means that it should be in line. So I'm going to clean this all up now because it's probably going to be the last thing I'm doing to this. I can't really spend much more time on it. Otherwise it's not going to be viable to fix. Okay, there we go. So that's going to be the last thing I'm doing to this because, like I said, it's not going to be viable otherwise. So if it works, it works, and if it doesn't, then it goes back, unfortunately, as a no fix. Even if it does display on the screen, if it's not displaying in 4K, then it's no fix. Sadly, that's just the way I work. It's got to work fully before I'll consider it as a successful repair. Before I consider it as a successful repair, the issue that it's coming for has got to fully work. So if it comes in for a HDMI issue, then I can only get it to output in for 640 or even 1080. If it's a 4K device, it's got to work in 4K. Otherwise, I don't consider it as a successful repair. That's just one of the downfalls of my business motto. I'm not like, some shops will say, well, we've got it to at least partially display, so you've got to pay us a partial repair fee, but I'm not that type of person. I can't do that to my customers. Unfortunately, it is one of my many downfalls, is that I'm not an arsehole. Well, not in that sense anyway. Probably still an arsehole. Alright, let's see what happens now. Oh, that's a shame. That's a shame. It's not going to display in 4K. And the problem is, I don't think I'll be able to figure it out. That's a bit of a shame. It really is. And it's not going to detect the 4K output either. Nope. So there is one thing I can do for the customer just to give them something that's workable. So if you look at the options here on video fidelity and overscan, we've got some overrides here. So you've got some display overrides. You've got auto detect recommended, which is recommended. It's recommended that it detects it itself. But if you go over to that and you set that to HDMI, and then click to override the TV's recommended settings, then what we can do is we can force it to display in 1080p or even 1440, and we can force video output. Now, whether that will actually work long term for the customer, I don't know. Well, I'll be damned. Yeah, that does not want to output in 1440. So if I wait 10 seconds, 10 or 20 seconds, then it will just go back to 640. It'll ask me if I want to keep the settings, and when I don't press anything. Oh, whoops, wrong screen. But when I don't press anything, it just goes back. Let's see if it... Oh, damn it. Stick drift. I need to fix this controller. So I've got to wait for that to turn the screen back on again now. But at least if I can get it to display in 1080p for the customer, then you know, at least I've got a workable console. I've actually got another one down by the side of me which I need to override the settings for, if I can. Let's try. Ah, stick drift. Damn you, stick drift. Oh, hang on. Huh. Ah, damn it, I need to do the... I'll tell you what, let's see if I can get it to work on the monitor, on the capture card. Yeah, there we go. So it's working on the capture card. Okay, there we go. So I've got it to display in 1080p. If I go to video fidelity, let's see if it works with auto now. Okay, yeah, so it appears when it's on automatic, it's not going to display in 4K or 1080p. So what I'll do is I'll set it to video mode manual, set that to HDMI, just like this, and then I'll be able to at least set it to 1080p. Let's have a look at the refresh rates. No, we don't want 120 Hertz. So let's just keep it on 1080p, just like that. So I'm going to keep it on 1080p like this, and at least that way then the customer should be able to use it. So if I go back to my TV now, it should pick up in 1080p on the TV, and it should do that automatically. There you go. So yeah, it's picked up automatically. That will stay in 1080p now as long as the customer has a 1080p TV. That should be fine, which I'm assuming they've got an Xbox One X. They probably are going to be having at least a 1080p TV. Unfortunately, I can't charge a customer for this, which really does suck, because obviously I've done the work. I'm not about to take that HDMI chip back off. It's not really worth my time and effort. Yeah, there was a short on the 5-volt rail. That's done something somewhere which is going to be a bit of a pain in the backside to actually figure out. Because I used voltage injection to actually try and pick up the short, as soon as I got to 1.6 volts, it burnt the short out. It got rid of the short completely. So I'm not going to know where the short is. It was obviously a very minor short, but it was a short nonetheless. And unfortunately, I'm not going to know where that is because there's no visible signs of anything on the board. The HDMI encoder was reading as bad, so I replaced the HDMI encoder, and I've replaced that twice. I know it's not the encoder what's causing it, but yeah, unfortunately this is a partial fix. It's not quite there, but it is at least working, so as the customer can, you know, at least play it for a little while, maybe save up for another board or something like that. And yeah, that's about the best I can do for that customer. But that's going to be it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. Let me know what you think down in the comments down below. I will always do my best to read and answer the comments. I do enjoy reading them in between jobs. It gives me something to do. So I really appreciate people leaving comments. If you do want to organise your own repair, I promise I'll try my best on absolutely every device. But if you do want to organise your own repair, you can do so by using the website address just down there in the video description. And just head over to there. You can book in the repair. You can find the price lists for most of the common repairs, or you can get in touch using the contact page. If you want to support the channel, if you feel really sorry for me because I'm not going to get paid for this and I probably can't eat tonight, then you can do so by using the Patreon link in the video description. You can become a channel member using the join button down below the video, or you can head over to Twitch, subscribe through Twitch Prime by linking your Amazon Prime account, and then you can subscribe for free. But that's going to be it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much for watching. Until next time, I'll see you later. If I don't starve to death in the meantime. Bye for now.